Everybody knows that any remotely thrilling action movie has a scene in which the main character, full of self-confidence, strong and handsome, challenges the main villain to a fight, and then the latter beats them for 15 minutes straight while explaining their villainous plans and motives. Of course, our hero survives, saved by a scripted miracle, but the close encounter with harsh reality provides them necessary life experience. They heal their wounds and contemplate various ways of finding their path to payback. The ship I want to tell you about today experienced something very similar. Please welcome Tier VIII British cruiser Belfast in her 1943 configuration. On the morning of November 21, 1939, brand new cruiser HMS Belfast struck a German magnetic mine a few kilometers away from the British coast, having served for less than 4 months. The ship was lucky enough to remain afloat, and she was urgently towed back to base. The cruiser was put in dry dock, and a thorough inspection showed that her hull had received heavy damage. Her keel had been ruptured and forced inside, half of her ribs had been deformed, and her turbines had been knocked from their foundation blocks. But at the same time, the hole in the hull was only small. The ship was laid up for repairs, which took 3 years. In this time, Belfast underwent in-depth modernization. In particular, her hull and armor were changed, her anti-aircraft armament was reinforced, and radar stations were installed. After her recommissioning in 1942, the cruiser served in Arctic convoys, distinguished herself in the Battle of the North Cape, during which German battleship Scharnhorst was sunk, and provided fire support for the Allied landings in Normandy. In World of Warships, cruiser Belfast is presented in her reborn state, her 1943 configuration, and ready for battle. Her key features are a large set of consumables that include damage control party, hydroacoustic search, smoke generator, and surveillance radar or fighter, torpedo launchers, and high explosive shells. The ship has decent rate of fire and salvo weight. Hydroacoustic search and surveillance radar allow her to repel destroyers, while smoke generator is useful for evading unwanted attention. All of her consumables are mounted in different slots and can be used simultaneously. Considering her short firing range and the arcing trajectory of her main battery shells, the ship is most comfortable when operating inside island groups. Belfast can set smoke screens, but their duration is too short to fire at enemies for a long time. Without smoke deployed, the ship is very vulnerable in open water engagements. Hence, at the beginning of a battle, it's advisable to take up a position that will allow you to fire from behind cover. It could be an island that's closer to enemy lines, but do try to think about escape routes beforehand, in case the situation on your flank takes a turn for the worse. Use artillery while out in open water only in cases when you're absolutely certain that you won't receive considerable damage. For example, engage individual destroyers or targets that are already exchanging fire with your allies. Although Belfast doesn't have the repair party consumable, she has a good HP pool for a light cruiser, 38,400. This is enough to survive several attacks, but like any light cruiser, she can be sunk by a precise salvo from a battleship or heavy cruiser. At the same time, Belfast can boast of having good firepower, and provided she's not coming under heavy fire, she excels at providing support to Allied battleships and other heavy ships. One-on-one duels with any ship type, except for destroyers, might cost you dearly. If there aren't many enemies around you, for example, in case of a weak flank or being closer to the middle of a battle, then you can start fighting for key areas and sinking enemy destroyers. That's when the 9-kilometer surveillance radar and hydroacoustic search will come in handy. As an auxiliary weapon, the cruiser carries torpedoes with an 8-kilometer range. It's not that long, but they might be useful against battleships or for attacks from behind islands. Now, some recommendations on upgrades and commander's skills. Useful upgrades: Main Armaments Modification 1, Engine Room Protection, Aiming System Modification 1, Steering Gears Modification 1, and Concealment System Modification 1. Commander skills for 10 points: Priority Target, Adrenaline Rush, Superintendent, and Concealment Expert. With 19 points, add Demolition Expert, Jack of all trades, Last Stand, and Expert Marksman. Now, let's return to where we started. Our hero became stronger, learned new skills, found new weapons, and thought about their tactics. Ready to face the villain again, they are set to vanquish them in an epic final battle. Good triumphs, the world is saved, and our hero earns their reward. By the way, thanks to her premium status and permanent camouflage, the 1943 variant of Belfast will bring you increased XP and credit income. Good luck, captains, and have fun in battle.